I learned power by watching who paid for it. When the speeches were done, I learned history by counting the chairs that stayed empty. I held the house while the world was drafted, patched the roof while the laws took shape. You wrote of liberty and cleaning, I washed its cost from the floor each day. The war came home in quieter ways, in hunger, worry, borrowed breath. You debated the future loudly, I negotiated with survival. As if universal, as if the rest of us were background noise. I loved you enough to interrupt you, enough to name what you couldn't see. That freedom spoken without women learns to forget who keeps it alive. Power sounds different when you hear it through the walls. Remember the ones you govern when the ink dries and the flags are folded. Remember the hands that never voted but carried the weight of what you molded. A nation isn't born in chambers alone, it's raised in kitchens, grief and nights. If your laws can't survive the home, they won't survive a lie. I watch ambition pace the floor, watch principles sharpen their tone, and arguing abstract virtue while ignoring the bodies they own. You feared tyranny wearing crowns, I feared it wearing manners and law. I saw how easily power forgets the faces it steps over to stand tall. You don't rule ideas, you rule people. I buried children while you built a country, counted absence like a second tongue. Liberty rang like a distant bell while the work stayed heavy and unsung. I didn't want your revolution softer, I wanted it honest enough to last. A future that calls itself just must answer for its blind spots fast. I wrote not as a threat but witness, not to shame but to insist. Remember the ladies wasn't poetry, it was a stress test you chose to miss. Because power that won't imagine others will always govern them worst. History isn't cruel by accident, it's careless first. If justice stops at convenience, it was never justice, just permission. Remember the ones you govern when applause makes you feel complete. Remember who absorbs the fallout long after the cheers retreat. If your freedom requires silence, if it depends on who's unseen, it isn't liberty you've written, it's tradition wearing a dream. I wasn't asking for perfection, I was asking for inclusion in thought, for laws that recognize consequence, not just the victories they sought. You said now is not the time, I learned what that phrase becomes. A corridor where justice waits politely while inequality makes itself at home. You feared chaos if power widened, feared the unknown voice at the table. But what you called stability was imbalance kept comfortable. A republic that ignores its women is a body cutting off its nerve. It may move for a while on memory, but it will never fully learn. I stayed when history turned its head, when gratitude was not the wage, not to be remembered kindly, but to keep telling the truth on the page. Because someone has to name the cost when ideals are being born, and someone has to love the future enough to make its creators uncomfortable. Remember the ones you govern, not as symbols, not as praise. Remember them as living measures of the choices that you make. A nation isn't proven by its words, but by who those words protect. If you don't listen to the ignored, you will be ruled by what you neglect. I wasn't asking to be thanked, I was asking you to see. History did eventually the question is whether you will, before it has to ask again.